Hey guys, so I am back quickly with episodes 3 and 4 of Married at First Sight season 19. Um, so we're starting off with not the fifth wedding for episode 3, but we're starting off with the other couple sort of waking up from their first night as a married couple. And there were two things of note to me with two of the couples, one for each couple. Um, and the first one was with, so they wake up and he was talking about how his one of his arms, I think it was, he said his left arm or something, or yeah, his left arm, because he was on the one side, like he was on the left side and she was on the right side. Um, and how his left arm became sort of um, like numb or something, start hurting, um, and uh, and stuff like that. And so he was like, "Well, you got a voluptuous noggin." I'm like, "Okay, this guy." I'm sorry, but at this point, I'm really not convinced that it's just nerves at this point, because and this will be even more of a feeling in episode 4, and I'll get to that because that's who we end up ending off with in episode 4. But that's such a, I don't even want to say nice way, but that's such a, I guess for him, a cutesy and nice way of saying you got a big A head. And I'm like, my God, what is wrong with you? Like, and I'm sure if she had said something along the lines of you got a big head, or had called you big head, um, you would be all kinds of annoyed and hurt and all that stuff. And this is just one of the reasons why I don't believe that he's all that into her, unfortunately. Um, and I just feel like he's giving her the sort of, I see you as my brother, or not my brother, but I see you as my sibling sort of thing. Like he's just giving that off. Like he views her more of as like the homeboy or the homegirl. Like she's just one of the homies, and it's like this is exactly what happened with Ike last season. He was treating a man like one of the homies, and it's, to me, it's like with, at least with Brittany, it actually feels like she's trying to genuinely want to be in a relationship, and she doesn't actually feel desperate to be in a relationship at any means. Especially like towards the end, like end of episode 4. Um, and it's just like I felt this way, or I felt like a man, unfortunately, was really really desperate. If you watched last season, you know what I mean, especially with the way she got engaged so quickly. Um, towards the end of her season last season. So, but with Brittany, she seems very much, at least more cognizant of what is going on with him, and that it, it she's not putting up with it. That's what I mean by a man was desperate, is that she was seeing what Ike was doing and was putting up with it just for the sake of saying she's married. That's not what I'm getting with Brittany. She does seem like she really wants to be in a relationship, or a marriage, I should say. And she's looking to have a more mature and fulfilling relationship where both people are satisfied in relationship. Because people can say a lot of things, but that doesn't really mean a whole hell of a lot at the end of the day if you're not really showing that you're wanting to be in a mature and healthy relationship. And so far, I think she's showing that personally, whereas Will isn't. So yeah. Um, Going to the second thing of note that we saw of the couple's um, day after wedding. Um, it's with Josh and Jalen. So he brings up that the morning after his business partner, I should say, wants him to get a post nup. Um, I don't think he really said this in so many words, like verbatim, um, but I assume it's because like his business partner wants their business that they started together protected from the potential of his stranger wife from trying to um, come after half of the business that they both created. Um, I mean, I guess I don't really see too much of an issue with it because, for one, she says that she's okay with doing it. So, and two, it's I guess I understand wanting to protect um yourself, because you never know. So I guess I understand. I mean, at least he didn't wait to ask her to do this. Um, like he didn't wait to ask this, and so therefore he didn't wait until like the day before decision day to ask her to sign this and all that stuff. But so I mean, and it seemed sincere when like he was trying to protect her feelings as well. So I mean, we'll see if they have any hiccups. I mean, I think I saw in one of the um, previews for an upcoming episode that there might be some bumps in the horizon, from in either episode 1 or 2, and then there is one at the end of episode 3 or episode 4, where they kind of bickering. So hopefully it's nothing too serious that they don't make it past decision day. But I'll get more into that when I get to end of episode 4. But to get on to the fifth and final wedding, it's Belinda and Chad. Again, Belinda is the mother of Jalen. And um, we find out actually from Belinda that her husband had actually cheated quite a bit when it came to them being married, and that's what ultimately broke them up. Is from what I'm gathering. We find out that Chad has a daughter, um, and I didn't really hear too much from them separate. Maybe one thing I noticed is that Belinda, since she became an empty nester, she is realizing that she is, I guess, lonelier than what she thought. Um, because once they went to college and graduated, the house became more quiet and all that. So, um, I mean, that's the only other thing that I noticed that I didn't necessarily write down, but I heard it and registered it and all that stuff. So they end up getting married. And after the ceremony, they're talking. And this goes into the reception as well. But Chad seems to be making a lot of jokes, and he seems to be actually more nervous than anything. That he's the one who was getting the nervous feeling from, and so that's why he seemed more awkward than anything, rather than Will. So, um, I mean, Belinda liked the fact that he was making jokes and trying to lighten the mood. She did make a sort of passing comment of, "Well, I'm not exactly sure how he feels about me," um, and you know, during the reception, Jalen had told him, "My mom is attracted to you," um, and all that. So, and then I don't remember who it was on his side, but I think someone on his side told Belinda that, you know, um, he's attracted to you. So they hear that the other is attracted to them. So, um, that's good that they, kind of got that sort of, confirmation, even if it wasn't necessarily from them. And I don't think that's going to be an issue. I mean, it didn't seem like that to be like that was an issue in episode 4. So I don't think it's going to be an issue later on, but if it is, that's kind of unfortunate. But I don't, like I said, I don't think so. And then we find out, like, right before they go to the honeymoons, I should just say all the couples go to the honeymoon, that they did actually interact before the wedding, because the producers and editors showed, like 4 days before the wedding, the brides to be and the grooms to be all meeting each other for the first time, and they ruined it slightly when they did that, because when they showed us that, because I was so hoping that they would not show. I mean, other than Belinda, Chad, and Belinda, Chad, Jalen, and Josh, nobody else knew who was a couple in this process. So I can understand them sort of interacting on the honeymoon, but they really did not need to have all the other couples um, interacting. I'm sorry, but they didn't need to. I mean, I get that they're all going through this process together, and even two of these couples have had the same issues going into episode 4, which I'll touch on later. But um, they well, I understand that. I think that it really does play a part, the couples interacting with each other, um, that sort of does more harm than good. And that was evident last season in Chicago, um, because with that whole cheating scandal, that I mean, I get it. One person may have been a little bit more harsh in her words than was necessary. That doesn't negate the fact that the person who did what they did. So this I don't foresee the same thing obviously happening, but because none of the previews or trailers showed that happening, but still, like, this really did not need to be a thing. I'm sorry, but it didn't need to be. I am so sorry. It did not need to be where they were interacting. Um, but anyway, so the end of episode 3 shows them all going to Panama for their honeymoon. Um, and it shows the couples, um, getting into Panama at night, and them, kind of interacting with each other as they get ready for bed and all that stuff. And then uh, the last scene is of Brittany, or one of the last scenes is of Brittany and Will explaining that they were intimate. Um, and they may not. So this part is a little. confusing to me. They may not have used protection, or they could have, but it may have not been used properly. And maybe someone can explain what that actually meant, because the way Brittany made it sound is like they didn't use protection, but then they may have. I don't know. It was weird. It was so weird. But long story short, immediately after they did a do, um, from what Brittany explains is that Will takes Smex off the table completely, um, and that sort of triggers her because of the fact that an ex of hers, um, after he had Smex with her, he decided to break things off entirely with her, stating that they were going quote unquote too fast. And so she is a little triggered, or pretty triggered by that. And so she's wanting to know, if, like she's wanting to know, if, if that is really, um, something that he wants to do, because it's just giving her pause for concern. And um, so yeah, which I understand. I understand why she would. I understand like why she would, be concerned about that, because it's like, well, you're you sleep with me and then you pull Smex off the table entirely. So why do that? Like, all because for her, all he had to do was essentially say, um, if something if something results as a result, if something comes out of, like, say pregnancy, like it seems like she's the one that might end up pregnant, at the end of the day, sometime during the season. And so if, say, something like pregnancy happens, and, um, because of the fact that we had Smex on the honeymoon, you will be here and be there for me and say everything's going to be okay. But to take Smex off the table completely, that feels like you're about to pull back entirely from me and want to leave, because that's exactly what happened to me in a previous relationship. And I mean, I don't know. I'm starting to think that he may have just said, "Oh, I'm not going to go anywhere." Um, if something ends up happening, because, um, like, he was just echoing that, trying to quote unquote soothe her, because he may realize that how it looks is that he just wanted her for her body. Um, eh, so I don't know. I mean, it's not really looking good in Will's favor, unfortunately, in my opinion. So, but um, okay. So going into episode 4, um, uh, one of the mornings at one of the following mornings, I'm not sure if it's like the next morning after they get to Panama, um, or what, but there's a morning where Rhonda and Pat are talking, over breakfast, and there's just a literal montage of him talking and talking and talking and talking, and it's like, wow. Whew. Um, and I almost feel sorry for him for a second, 'Cause I was like, "Why did you do that to that man?" And then next thing you know, like, Rhonda, tries to share, about a story about how, she leaves her lights and TV on, when she ends up needing to leave the house because, um, sometime in the past, and I'm not sure how long ago in the past, but I assume it was like a few years, had gone by like 1 to 3 years maybe, where she had been robbed. And, then he ends up turning a turning it into, saying, "Oh, well, I'm not really into TV," or something like that. And I was like, "Okay, that's kinda weird." And so she says in, like, her solo confessional, that she's starting to realize that he was talking about himself, and he doesn't really ask about her or ask follow-up questions when she shares stuff about herself voluntarily. But he's, a great information sharer about random things and himself, which I'm not gonna, I definitely agree with, because especially in a later scene, um, where she brings up the fact that, like during lunch, she was like, she didn't feel like he asked anything about her life. Um, and she brings up the fact that she shared that story about being burglarized, and she says like, well, most people will say, oh, you were robbed, or oh no, that's terrible. What happened? Or something to that effect, and he didn't. Instead, he turned the conversation to something entirely different. Um, and he's like, he starts to go into defense mode, and I understand the urge to want to sort of compare situations, and sort of like hu- humanize the situation by wanting to sort of um, sort of bring up something that is similar, that something similar happened to you, or um, maybe maybe something that not doesn't necessarily have to do with you, but is this happened to somebody else in your life. So I kind of understand the urge to want to do that, but at the same time, if you're not giving her any space to talk and express herself and share her experience, then that will feel like you're trying to take up so much space that only you get to share stuff, and like the person who doesn't get to share anything ends up not feeling suffocated, and like they're not actually in a relationship, they're just there in your to fill space in your life. um and that was like a perfect moment for him to say, oh, I'm sorry for doing that, I'll do better, I promise. um but he doesn't, and so he then asks her a pointed question, and asking her like, well, what dreams did you have as a child? And so she makes a statement about how she wanted to be named Jennifer, um and because I guess she preferred that, and he immediately then says, well, boys never wanted to do that, and boys never wanted to change their names. They wanted to play with GI Joes. And then she was like, well, pause, see, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're moving the conversation back to you, and I barely had any semblance of saying one thing, and somehow it ends up turning back to you. That's what I'm talking about. um so then she's like, okay, so let me just be able to say what I want or need to say, and then we can go back to talking to you maybe in a little bit. So she reveals that she had both her parents, um, one which was an iron worker who was her dad, and then her mom was an accountant. But her mom ended up needing to become the sole breadwinner because her father um, became sick in 1968. And she started to become emotional. And this is where I really enjoyed seeing him and them together, because when he saw that she was getting emotional, he was like, hold on, pause, take a deep breath, and try to calm yourself, because I don't want to see you get emotional. I think that was a good scene personally, but um, so it seemed to end better than how it started in that morning. Um, I think with Belinda and Chad, they seem to be getting along pretty well, and so hopefully they can stay on that trajectory. Um, I don't think I saw any instances in future episodes where they mm, um, were having sort of tiffs or disagreements or anything like that. Um, so um, the couples then all meet up together at the pool area and then talk about their respective issues. And it looks like Derek is having the same issue as Rhonda had with Pat, which is Megan isn't really asking much about him. Um, so Derek, brings up his lack of feeling getting asked questions while paddleboarding. And she says that she feels like it's the same way with him. Um, but I think it's just because of the fact that Brittany had brought up in the last scene that Megan had told her Megan is more the shy, reserved type, and so that's why I think she's not necessarily asking anything about him. And so because she's not asking anything about him, he doesn't feel the need to ask anything about her. And so that just becomes a cyclical cycle, unfortunately, because one's feeding off the other, and so now the other is feeling the same thing as the first person. It's like that never gets resolved. So hopefully they'll end up maybe learning how to ask each other things and hold space for the person to say what it is that they want to say. But I'm not holding out too much hope, because based off of the preview for the upcoming episodes, um, he seems to be shutting down because um, she may be getting explosive when she gets upset. Not so much to the point where she's putting hands on him, I don't think. But just the fact that she seems to, I guess, maybe raise her voice, which is never good, because when you start raising your voice at people, that's when people really don't want to talk to you. Because if all I'm going to be met with is raised voices every time I try to get my point across, I don't want to talk to you. So I can understand why he might end up shutting down if that's what happens. Um, and I'm not going to say that he may not have had something to do with that, but if that's the case with her just getting loud and screaming and yelling and all that, anytime he tries to voice his opinion, then that's going to be a problem, because nobody's going to want to be with you if you're, like I said, raising your voice, because at that point I can never get anything across, and so therefore I'm going to be shutting down. So I don't know. It's not necessarily looking good for them either, unfortunately. But anyway, um, so the last scene of the episode is with Brittany and Will, where they're on some sort of balcony. I thought they were on the balcony of their hotel room, but it looks like they might be on the balcony of um, just a hotel in general. And she brings up that she wants to have more conversations. And at first, it seemed like they were sort of missing each other, and how to communicate. But as the conversation kept going on, I was feeling like he was intentionally not wanting to engage with her in conversation, because he was stating, "Well, you haven't asked me anything," and she says, "Well, I just don't want to be asking you your favorite color or your favorite book. I want to know what you like for the woman in your life, in your romantic life, to do for you when, like, in the sense of, do you want like words of affirmation? Do you want physical touch? Do you want gifts? Do you want to spend quality time? What do you want? What do you like your spouse to do for you? So do you like her to cook for you? Do you like her to give you small handholds, like hand squeezes, hugs, cuddles? Um, and this is what she asked, like, are you a cuddler at the reception? And all he said was, "Well, you're gonna find out." That's not an answer. Either it's a yes or it's a no. Either it's a yes or no. It's not that difficult of a question. Either you know that you want to cuddle or you don't. I can get pretty cuddly if I want to, but for the most part, for me, I'm not that big on hugging that much. Um, I mean, even with like family members, so it's not exclusively to romantic relationships where I don't like hugging. It's platonic relationship as well. So for me, physical touch is not the top of the list. I personally love spending quality time, and that can mean any sort of quality time. But typically, that's really just I'm perfectly fine with, like, sitting on the couch and like reading a book, or sitting on the couch and watching watching a show, and maybe then talking about it afterwards, if you really want to, or even doing the same thing with like a movie. Um, that's my time. That's my preference of quality time, but I wouldn't necessarily limit that to, let's say, um, we don't need to go out on a date and like have dinner, um, or anything, or like even trying like a cooking class together one time or something. Just as long as like we're spending quality time with each other, I'm okay with that. Um, that's personally me. Now, if I were in a relationship, which I'm currently not, but if I were in a relationship, I know that, you know, might not be what my spouse would want. He might want physical touch. He might want me to, um, give him gifts, or maybe make him a meal, like every couple of days or something. Um, or he might, like me giving him a gift, or what, I don't know, whatever. So that might be what he likes. So I would have to do incorporate that into my daily life, because that his is not going to be quality time. So that's the thing. It's like that's what she's trying to ask, and um, I was thinking maybe, um, Will might be the type to want that small talk. that will maybe lead into deeper conversations. But I wasn't sold again, by the end of the conversation, because at the end of the day, or at the end of the scene, she ends up leaving and he doesn't even go after her because, like, she she was making a point of, well, all you say is, well, that's okay, that's good, that's okay. Like, he wasn't really giving himself, expressing his feelings. You're gonna always have an emotion. Um, there's no way you're never not mad or you're never not irritated. And by the end of the scene, he was clearly irritated. So it's not like he doesn't have an emotion at all, like any emotions at all. So it's not like he's just numb all the time. So at some point you're gonna have to express yourself. And that was her frustration. It's like, well, give uh, can you express yourself on what your spouse can do that will make you happy? Can you express anything in that regard, like at all? And that was her frustration. It's like, you're not giving me anything to work with. And so I understood. Like, this is why I was saying at the top of the review that she seems more genuinely wanting to be in a relationship and therefore a marriage, because and she's at least trying to get to the bottom of like of anything, whereas he's just more ambivalent. And this is why unfortunately, he was trying to have sex with her, and that was it. Unfortunately, and which breaks my heart for her because she's a pretty woman, and she does not deserve that at all. She does not, and did not deserve that. And so I think her intuition that he's starting to behave like the ex that took the relationship completely out of the like he wanted to end the relationship completely after they had smacks, and claiming that they were quote unquote going too fast in a relationship. um I, I think that I think her intuition is unfortunately correct. I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt a little bit too much in episodes 1 and 2, but it really is just like not looking good. It really isn't. And I honestly hate this for her. I don't want to see her heartbroken, because she was trying to give this her all, and he just wanted to have Smex, because unfortunately it does seem like to me, and this is just my opinion, that he wasn't really that into her, and he seemed to be echoing her way too much at the reception, and just after the ceremony. So um hopefully she doesn't get too hurt in this process. But because I'm honestly, Brittany, I'm pulling for you, girl. I'm pulling for you. um but with that, that's all I had of note for this episode, or these 2 episodes. Let me know what you guys think down below. Like it, share, and subscribe. Bye.